Very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Woodland Stud. Michael Guerin's with me again into Dominion time. I must admit, leading into it, Michael, I was like, I don't know how to get excited about that. Not too many Kiwis there, but I must admit, since the 2 rounds of heats that we've had, there's been plenty of good racing action. Very good evening to you.
Sure has been. Good evening, mate. Good evening to everybody. I hope your Wednesday went well. And if you watched the races from Ballarat last night, I hope you enjoyed them. I think it's a vastly different series to last year, Greg, where Lazarus dominated and you had that feeling of seeing a champion. The fact that we don't have any champions in this series has made it very even, and it's made each heat sort of worth watching because you're not entirely sure what's going to happen. It's been good so far, and the Kiwis have really stood up. Obviously, all 3 pacing contestants from New Zealand have won at least a heat. Cruz Bromac's won both of his. And the trotters, I'm thinking we'll have 2 in the final. So Speeding Spur very good both nights, and Monte Python looks like sneaking in. So look, that's a very fair representation, probably 5 finalists out of 7 reps. We'll go back and we'll probably look at last Saturday as well, Greg, just to give people an idea because they may not have seen them, then talk more about last night and what it all means, but it's pretty much a case of so far so good. Yeah,
it has been that. What about for the other parts of the show tonight? We will get straight into those Interdominions really shortly for you. The Green Miles, both of them being run and won at Methven, even though the track, well, there were some problems earlier in the week, but it ended up playing pretty well. Robbie Holmes got to a milestone recently, so I caught up with him at Methven to talk about him joining that club. There's quite a few in that club. I didn't think there was as many, but there you go. We'll talk about that shortly. The Montes have arrived in New Zealand, so we get a chance to have a look back at last Friday night. And the tips from our team. 9 tipsters each and every week, and 7 of them found a winner. Let's get back to the Interdominions though, and go back to night number 1, and Spankham Michael sitting alongside Alpha Rock. He'd moved a lap earlier, found his way to the park position. I'm Pat Light ducks to the inside after burning around them as well, and both these Kiwis raced really well.
Look, this could be the strongest heat of the entire series, and I think Spankham's a horse a lot of us sort of forgot last season because Chase Auckland emerged and we didn't see a lot of him, but he was excellent there beating Pat's Delight. So the Kai Kura Quinella mates producing the same and saying very much the 4-year-olds who arrived for the series. Tiger Tara strong in 3rd place. So Greg, that set us up for like, wow, the Kiwis are in play already because our 2 20-to-1 chances were automatically hugely close to the final after the points they gained there.
And here's Galactic Star, showed good early speed, found the front, San Carlo alongside. I'm not sold on San Carlo. I know he's very good in Victoria, but yeah, I'm not convinced that he's an Interdominion winner. He was good there, and we'll see last night he wasn't as good, but Galactic Star showed that if he draws the front line in the final, he'll have a part to play.
Only horse from Perth in this series, of course, a New Zealand bred horse again. Gate speed's just crucial. Even though there's depth in these fields, it's so hard to come from back in the field, and we're going to see a lot of that over the case of this series. He's a good enough horse to be a factor in the final. I don't see him being a winning chance in the final. San Carlo's rep has got really big because he races in predominantly weak Victorian free-for-alls. This horse hasn't been racing in weak races. This is Cruz Bromac, 4th in the New Zealand Cup, and the winner of the free-for-all. Absolutely jogged this, proved nothing apart from the fact that he had travelled in good health. Had got the lead, dominated the race, and all of a sudden Purdon Rasmussen, who could have not had a horse at the Interdominions, Greg, had 2 first night heat winners. After the first night, you think, okay, what did all that mean? Probably nothing major, apart from Shadow Sachs. Now, he finished 7th or 8th on the first night, looked a touch unlucky, then pulled up sore. Now, he was one of the favourites for this series. Again, like San Carlo, who's been racing in a predominantly weakish Victorian free-for-all scene. So he was then pulled out of the series on Sunday. Then the drama came on Monday. Tim Butt, who we all know, of course, had 2 horses, Let It Ride, the Blacks of Fake winner, and Italian Delight, who was probably in the series as a spare part, to be honest. And Tim took bloods from them, Greg, to ascertain where they were at, as trainers will often do during a series to see just how the horse is travelling. In Victoria, the rules are you cannot have a syringe or an injection in a horse for the 24 hours before race day, not before race start time.
So it's almost effectively 48 hours, potentially.
Well,
Yeah, give or take.
At a night
Yeah.
meeting it is.
Yeah.
Long story short, the stewards ringed him and said, how are the horses? And he said, I just took some bloods. And they said, well, you can't do that because obviously you've injected them to get the blood out. And Tim said, oh. And then the conversation went, well, we're going to scratch these horses. Now, do I believe this should have happened? No. I believe they should have shown some
empathy at least.
Some empathy and also some discretion and said, no one's tried to do anything wrong here. But the rule doesn't allow for that discretion. So the stewards haven't technically done anything wrong. The rule may be worded in a way which provides no leg room. Tim didn't do anything wrong. He admitted to it.
He would have done it on Sunday, but the labs aren't open.
There was nowhere to take the bloods to on Sunday.
Yeah.
So there's been no one's done anything particularly wrong. In many ways, Tim's a little bit lucky because he was only fined $1,000. And I know he didn't do anything wrong, but he could have been fined a lot more because the people who backed Let It Ride by Tim's mistake, and he admitted it's his mistake, Greg, have lost their investment. You backed it to win the final. It was one-time favourite for the final. It's gone. So Tim didn't do anything wrong, but he was stupid. And we all make stupid mistakes. He's been fined $1,000, which is probably a fair enough penalty. The bigger fine is for the owners of Let It Ride. Would he have won the final? Who knows? But he now has no chance to do so. And the punters who backed him. Italian Delight doesn't matter so much. He was more in there as a travelling companion. So that was the drama on Monday. All of that took us to Tuesday night, which is probably last night if you're watching this on Wednesday. So we arrive at Ballarat for the sprint heats over the 1,710 metres, and they were always going to be dominated by the leaders. Here's Rapper's Delight in front, Tiger Tara outside him, and stomping down the outside is Spankum.
Tiger Tara's trying to left. It's Rapper's Delight in front. Tiger Tara still coming. Rapper's Delight from Tiger Tara. Spankum and Rapper's Delight goes all the way. Rapper's Delight beat Tiger Tara and Spankum. Both
so win
excellent
17
runs.
for him. Rapper's Delight off the machine very quickly. Home in 53.9. The reason I'm saying that with such authority, Michael, is that really told a story about how good Spankum went. Tiger Tara, I actually liked his first night run. I thought for a change he's been driven in behind and been a bit unlucky. He probably felt good about life. He was very brave here. And Spankum, well, he's just gone to another level, hasn't he?
He has. He's arrived at the series, and I think some people probably thought Kaikoura might have been a bit of a fluke, but he's racing so strongly. And Natalie, I had a good talk to her on Sunday, and she said, look, I can't choose between him and Cruz Bromack for the final because, her words, he's a fat little fella, Spankum, and he's kept on improving through the series. Rapper's Delight is a good horse, but I don't see him winning the final because I think he's also a victim of the fact that the Victorian free-for-allers are quite weak. So San Carlo and him and Shadow Sachs have had their turns, but they're not racing horses of the quality of what we have over here. Here he is with driver Kima Fredding. As I said, it's a great story. She came out as a stable hound, became a Monte rider, all the way from Sweden, and now she's driving into Dominions, and she's one of the stars of the series because it's added to this very strong female component in the series. Last night she was in a heat. I think it was her, Lauren Tritton, Kieran Manning, Natalie Rasmussen,
Rebecca Bartley,
all in the same heat. So it's a cool indication of how far females have integrated to the top of harness racing. But while that was a good heat, I thought the performance of the night last night was from a horse we all know well. Pat's Delight has looked like he's gone to another level, Greg, and I would say he's going at least as good as Spankum. This probably didn't prove too much, but man, it was emphatic.
Through. Under pressure was I'm the boss. It's I'm Pat's Delight in front. Franco Nelson, I'm battling on well. I'm the boss, but I'm Pat's Delight is clear. It's going to be a pretty easy win for the favourite. Can't Refuse is flashing through late, but I'm Pat's Delight has won it from either Can't Refuse, who's likely got...
Plugs in, 152.2, fastest heat of the night, and he's just jogged this. G Lang has not got an Inter-Dominion pacing final on the mantelpiece.
Ironically, this one's obviously trained by Cran Dalgetty, and Gavin's father, Graham Lang, drove a Victoria Cup winner in Desperate Comment for Cran, 25 years ago maybe?
Yeah, the mid-90s.
It was a long, long time ago. And Gavin's a great driver, but he doesn't drive that many great paces. He just doesn't seem to get on them because often they're closed shops, these stallions. There was a story, which I can't prove, but I'm pretty sure it was true, as we see Cran wearing a shirt that
only Cran would wear.
Yeah, or someone who works in a really bad restaurant.
Or they have issues with their eyesight.
Yeah. But anyway, we digress. So there was a story in The Informant by Garrick Knight about a month or 6 weeks ago that Pat Kabala, Greg, the owner of Pat's Delight, turned down $1 million. Now, you can never substantiate whether these offers are real or whether the money was ever going to turn up. But when I read that, I thought to myself, well, Pat's either A, got too much money, or B, he's off his rocker. As it turns out, he might be a pretty smart man. The way this horse is racing and looking stronger by the day, maybe he is $1 million horse.
And Cran decided to not have a nomination for the New Zealand Cup, to not even tempt him and not go to Auckland because he thought it would be weaker in Australia. Well, he's got that bang on as well.
He actually rang me. He rang me about 3 weeks ago on a Sunday. And I get a lot of trainers ringing at this time of year. And what they want to do, because most New Zealand trainers don't watch any harness racing in Australia, is compare. And he said, well, who will go to Auckland, because I have a sort of list of these things, and who will go to Melbourne for the Interdoms. And at that stage, the only New Zealander going was Cruz Bromack. So the All-Stars added Spankham. And I said, look, your Auckland Cup could look like this. It could have been the Fixer and Dream About Me and Ultimate Machete. A couple have pulled out of there since. Or you can go to Melbourne and race
the Melbourne
basically inferior horses. So he rang Pat back up and they made the decision and they've gone. And it's really worked for them. I also think he's a very good small track horse. I think he's one of those horses who will get big and bold scooting around those small tracks. But Greg, if he can do this now, this opens up a whole different window to him. Hunter Cups, the future Hunter Cups and Interdominions, but also Miracle Miles, admittedly on a bigger track, but he's a speed horse. If a horse can race well in Australia, and not all horses can, then there's an enormous amount of money still to be won.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing too is, of course, he's got the 4-year-old races and the jewels, which, when you know Chase Auckland's coming back and Spankham's coming back, those 4-year-old races start to look really interesting now for later in the season.
I want to temper it a little bit. He beat Can't Refuse, I'm the Boss, Bad Billy and Franco Nelson finished 5th.
Yeah, well, but also...
you can only beat what you're beating.
Agreed, and his time was good, but the first night takes Spankham out and he's beaten Tiger Tara.
Yes.
And Rapper's Delight and some serious horses. He's a massive player in this series because 2 or 3 of the favourites before the series are now gone.
He's big, he's bold, his name is Cruz Bromack. He was luckless in the New Zealand Cup. He won the free-for-all, he won the first night, and then he did this.
Then Galactic Star turning for home, the sprint on. Audi Hares in front, Cruz Bromack 2 metres away, coming after it. Galactic Star to the outside, Cruz Bromack hit the lead from Audi Hare. Galactic Star runs on, then MacDoro, but it's Cruz Bromack in front, and Cruz Bromack is going to win again. Cruz Bromack from Audi Hare, Galactic Star and MacDoro.
Not a lot to dislike about that performance, Michael.
Look, when you go back over his season, won the Methven Cup fresh up. Luckless in the Kaikoura Cup when he missed away, standing starts probably aren't his thing. Wasn't entirely lucky in the New Zealand Cup. Wasn't terribly unlucky, but things didn't go really his way. Won the free-for-all, now he's won 2 heats. He's got gate speed. This is not the best version of him. He's not a sit-parked horse. Never has been. He's got 2 other dimensions. He can lead, or he's very quick sprinting. Only 2 paces in this series, Greg, have sat parked and won. Everything else has led and won, both by the All-Stars, which shows that their horses are fit enough to be driven that way. He's now favourite for the pacing final. Now, if he draws the second line...
Round Melton.
He won't be favourite. But if he draws to lead, depending what happens at Cranbourne for the last round of heats on Saturday, he could well start favourite. I still think Natalie would lean towards him over Spankham. What's your view?
Yeah, I would think the same. She's, hedging her bets at the moment, and that's not surprising. Very similar to leading into the New Zealand Cup, where she had the choice of Cruz and the Fixer, and ultimately she chose the right way on that occasion.
So what you've seen out of all of that, who's the top 2 in the Interdom at the moment?
Cruz Bromack, definitely, and I still think Tiger Tara marginally over Spankham and Pat's Delight, but I think Cruz Bromack is number 1. He's equal favourite with Spankham now. I'm not going to put too much weight onto which one Natalie goes with, because she'll wait to after the 3rd round of heats and potentially wait to the barrier. She could. I'm not saying she would, but she could. Tiger Tara has been excellent. We know that he can move in a race. Not many of these can, and it's very difficult to have a knock on Pat's Delight.
I agree with you, all those sentiments. I do think San Carlo's too short. San Carlo...
Well, he shouldn't be inside Pat's Delight.
Well, he shouldn't be the same as Tiger Tara.
No.
He's never proven he's at the same level as Tiger Tara. And Rapper's Delight, I don't want to be taking $8 for it. I'm down to 4 who I would want to back in the final.
Who's number 1? Who if you... Well, pre-third round and barrier.
It's just going to depend on the barrier draw.
Yep.
If Tiger Tara draws 1 to 4 in the final,
he's the horse to beat. Yep.
If Cruise Bromac draws the second line, it could start $8. Reverse those, same prices apply. So I'm not getting too carried away by the whole thing. It's good entertainment to watch, and I'm enjoying seeing it unfold, but our opinions now could be totally different by the time we have the show next Wednesday. Cranbourne heats at 2,555 metres. From the mobiles on Saturday night. And with Tiger Tara, the one thing I would say, Greg, I reckon their confidence got knocked by what happened in the free-for-all. I don't believe the grass story. He raced like he bled, and I'm not saying he did bleed, but that's how he raced. And when you have that knock, I think they've deliberately driven him the way they've driven him because of that. I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Cranbourne, if they get a nice draw, which isn't available to us as we record the show, and he comes out and they drive him harder. And therefore I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being favourite for the final. But I don't know how they do it, but the All-Stars have timed this to a nicety. 3 weeks ago, Spankham wasn't going to the series. He's equal favourite. He could be favourite for the final if he draws 1, 2 or 3. So, as I said, no Lazarus. And Greg, in many ways it makes it more intriguing because there's a lot more things in play than this time last year. Definitely. Let's have a look at the trotters now for you and Kiwi representation. Headed up by Speeding Spur, but here's Tornado Valley winning on night 1, and he just seems to do this effortlessly. Very quick horse, and he's got gate speed, which is incredibly crucial in this series. He doesn't tend to win by big margins that often, but Andy Gath has him trotting beautifully. He's trotting really squarely. And there was a rumour going into the series he wasn't sound. Well, that was just one of those silly rumours that gets around harness racing. He got crook about 3 weeks ago and he bounced back, so that was really good. Then our old mate, Speeding Spur, turned up in the second heat, and again, you're seeing leaders and they jog to the lead. And look, even though he was always going to win this, Greg, he was very impressive and probably far more impressive than he was at the New Zealand Cup Carnival. Yeah, exactly, and he pulls away from Maori Law, who we'll see in a later heat from last night have a gallop and just have no luck at all, but he dead set bolted in there, Michael, and that's the Speeding Spur. He loves Melton, which is going to be a big advantage when he goes back there for the final, and the additional distance, I believe, will be a huge advantage too. Agreed, and he seems to love Victoria. He seems to love just getting over there and the sun gets on their back, and some horses just love the small track racing. He's a great horse anywhere, but I don't know, he looks very comfortable during this series. We'll see the clash of those two first night heat winners from Ballarat last night, which is by no means definitive, but gives you a chance to line the two things up. Yeah, let's have a look at the first of the Trotters heats from last night in the second round. Kai Valley Blur needed big points, and Chris Alford knew that. Watch him get to the outside here, and we've seen this finish before.
Kingdom Comers coming through, plenty of winning chances. Big Jack Hammer moved up from enrolled. Sky Petite, Monty Python, here's Kai Valley Blur. Big Jack Hammer hit the lead. Kai Valley Blur cutting it down. Kai Valley Blur out wide, swamped them and got up. Kai Valley Blur in a big form turnaround has beaten Big Jack Hammer and Sky Petite.
Well, he needed that. That's win 29 for him, Michael. Pulled to the outside. Clearly, this was the weaker of the two heats, but he got maximum points. That gets him back into the reckoning well and truly. Big Jack Hammer was good with Kimmer Fenning driving for David Aiken, of course. Sky Petite picks up nice points there. A little bit unlucky, Wilma's mate. A better performance than the first night run, but she'll need to go again and make sure she makes the top 3.
Yeah, I don't think she's a chance in the final regardless, so there's no Trotter's consolation, which is slightly disappointing for her, but I think she's there for the long haul. I think she'll stay over the summer. He's a remarkable old horse, this horse. He's not the best horse or the bravest or fastest horse we've ever seen, but he can just produce these crazy runs once in a while. He did it here in New Zealand during the Dominion and last year during the Christmas Carnival. 11 years old, so it's an incredible story, the Kai Valley Blur story. I think that was good that he won last night because a lot of people thought the Trotters had become a two-horse series, but you can't discount him because he's beaten most of these horses before, so it now becomes maybe a 3-horse series. I just can't see anything outside him or the 2 horses you're about to see winning. So the first night winners, Tornado Valley and Speeding Spur clashed, and the big surprise at the start, Tornado Valley crossed Speeding Spur, and that was the winning of the race. You're looking for the horse in front, the horse outside him, and the 4th favourite for the final sitting in the trail.
It's Tornado Valley, Speeding Spur. Tornado Valley giving plenty though. Save Our Pennies the inside, but Tornado Valley's too good. He wins again. Tornado Valley beats Save Our Pennies. 3rd place.
That's 5 on the bounce for him. He was super impressive. Yes, he was. Oh, I thought Speeding Spur was equally as good. Save Our Pennies from that barrier draw again, get to finals time, draws good, gets in on the markers as a definite first 4 player. Tornado Valley, developed in New Zealand by Terry McMillan. We'll catch up with Terry before next week's show and have him on as part of that, because he always thought this horse would get to its best once he was around 7 or 8. Well, he's there now.
He's a lovely, speedy horse and always has been. I think Terry was right. He just needed time. Trotting very squarely. Andy Gath's had a lot of success with trotters over a long period of time. Even horses who weren't that good, like Glenferrie Typhoon, have gone on to win Great Southern Stars. For him, of course, La Cucaracha years ago came across and won a Rowe Cup, which is not an easy thing to do. This horse looks in the zone. And I think he's clearly the horse to beat in the final. I'm not saying he will just win the final, because he's still only Tornado Valley. Mari Law's way too short there. Forget the 650, that's just ludicrous. Kai Valley Blue is the actual 3rd favourite. Forget the market. He might start $25 in the final, Mari Law. Tornado Valley's the horse to beat, but if he draws the 2nd line and Speeding Spur draws the front in the final, then things can change dramatically, much like Tiger Tara and Cruise Bromac. Tough Monarch's been good. Monty Python will almost certainly make the final, but Greg, when you look at that, maybe there's 3 winning chances. Some people might want to say Save Our Pennies, but I think he's a place chance, and Mari Law's just in the wrong place. He should be 25 to 1.
You're right about the barrier draws, because we know that now Tornado Valley's put the gauntlet down to say, I can get across you if I'm on the front line with you, Josh Dickey. I don't know that he showed the speed that he showed last night, if you know what I mean. Like, that
Tornado
was
Valley
terrific speed.
Faster than him, but I'm not entirely sure if Josh was in a final where it mattered more.
He might not go a bit harder.
That he would go harder, but you also got to wonder, if you're in front, would you want him sitting outside you and setting up the race for a Kai Valley Blue? It's Tornado Valley's series to lose, but Speeding Spur can beat him, if that makes any sense. And then it's quite a long stretch to a Kai Valley Blue-like horse, I would have thought, because what Kai Valley Blue needs is a hot tempo in the final.
Those 2 horses having a walk.
Exactly. Those 2 horses lead and trail, or are around about the speed. There's not enough depth in this series to see some pressure into the race. There's not an attacking horse. Again, it's even, but I think there's 4 or 5 winning chances in the pacing final, before we go to Cranbourne, of course. I think there's 2.5 on the trotters. So
we'll have a good look at the finals next Wednesday and catch up with the connections as well. So a decent preview of the Interdominion, and of course it's Group 1 race night at Alexandra Park next Friday night. So there'll be plenty to preview there. Short break for us when we come back. Green Mile time out of the Mount Harding. Green Mile time at the Mount Harding. It was on Sunday, the 19th running of this race, where the record was set by AG's White Sox last year, 155 and change. That was never going to be the case after plenty of rain in the Canterbury region, but the same horse still got the business done. That's him getting to the outside in the gold cap of Ricky May.
Out wider, let's spend a night together, and AG's White Sox comes at them now. They're across the track. AG's White Sox, Mossdale Rose from Let's Spend a Night Together. AG's White Sox, he's back. AG's White Sox from a photo. Let's spend a night together.
Ask the question, was that enough to get you to Auckland? One would think the answer to that must be yes.
Oh yeah, it looked as if he did it really easy. Yeah, hopefully it'll just what Ricky suggests anyway. But yeah. He's heading in the right direction anyway.
Great for the horse to get his confidence back too. Of course, last time when he came here, went out onto the track and had to be late scratched, and just things hadn't gone well for him. But that'll help him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we knew he was working good enough. He hasn't. It's just he's lost his confidence from the stand, and we just had things go pear-shaped, and hopefully we're back on track.
Yep, you certainly are, and the mare went great too.
Yeah, no, super. She got a great trip, and yeah, no, great.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, Mossdale Rose finishing in second position. She's in a terrific vein of form, isn't she? She'll have a part to play in the mares' races into the new year, one would think. Maybe even head north. Maybe not. Might be a little bit too early for the Queen of Hearts. But $11 now in the Auckland Cup, and he's back on track.
Yeah, and it's good to have him back too. Well, we know he's a very good horse, obviously. 2 Group 1 wins last season, Greg. With those New Zealand Cup campaigns, when they go off
no gate
track,
speed at all
it's really hard to get them back round, and the horse, as you used the word in the interview, lost his confidence. Bizarrely, this race was totally run against how it needed to be run for him to win. They have dawdled him. In fact, that's as slow as I've ever seen an
203.9
open class field go in this country.
Yep.
That would be a slow time for maidens.
Well, the trotters nearly went 2 seconds faster, just to give you an indication, half an hour later.
And he's sitting last, and you're thinking, well, when you're watching this, you just want to be on the leader, and you're thinking he's got no chance. But it just goes to show you, when a horse is feeling confident and good, they can do things they can't do when they're not feeling quite as good. Ricky didn't even turn the whip here. Good to have him back. Yes, he's an Auckland Cup winning chance. We know that. It's not going to be the strongest ever Auckland Cup. Forgotten Highways just got me totally perplexed. I'm always willing to forgive any horse, but let's not forget, Methven Cup, he ran second on this track in a very strong field. He has led and walked and stopped. So willing to forgive, but I can't work that out for the life of me. No,
I said 155 and change. It was 155 dead last year. That's how the difference.
So they've gone 9 seconds slower.
Just about. That's quite
which is 100,
wasn't it?
Over 100 metres.
Now, what about the Auckland Cup though? Is he back, or is it now back to a stand?
Well, since we did the show last week, 2 of the big names have pulled out of the Auckland Cup. The Fixer's not going. He's going to head to potentially Cambridge, then on to the Hunter Cup and the Miracle Mile. And Ultimate Machete, Mark Purdon said, standing starts, no. I think they were worried that's how he injured himself last time. And there's lots of mobiles in Australia, so he might go Cambridge and there. So all of a sudden, you've lost 2 of the top 4 chances, which leaves you with this.
Dream About Me, of course, previous winner. Turn It Up, new to the grade, but great in the free-for-all. Jack's Legend at $10, had a reasonable cup week. On the cards is at the same price, which surprises me a little bit.
Very much so. One's run second in a New Zealand Cup, and the other one's never contested an open class race. I think the fact that Sheriff is at $10 against AG's White Sox, who is an Easter Cup winner, is also bizarre. But these markets are what they are. I mean, the bottom line is the top 2 dominate. AG's White Sox is clearly a winning chance. The question will be with Pat's Delight, do they come home in the form he's in?
Well, if they do and he's $11, you'd be snapping that, wouldn't you?
Right. So he might be Interdominion champion by that stage. But AG's White Sox back is a good thing. And I feel for Greg and Nina and Ben. They've had a really tough spring and things just haven't gone their way. And obviously you lose Monte. And it's easy to drop your lip, but they haven't. And the remainder of the team's racing really well. Everybody knows was a bit average the other day. But yeah, I think that they're bouncing back, and that's a sign of a good stable. You don't sulk, you get on with the business, and there's plenty more races coming up.
Yep, there is. So let's go back to the Green Mile for the Trotters. Everybody knows was the defending champion. You're right, he didn't race up to what he was able to achieve last year, but the leader, Amaretto's Son, got win number 1, the first win since the Dominion of last year, and it was a brilliant front-running drive by Cherie Tomlinson.
Leads a length and a half, Ronald J. Then came Il Pirata, and everybody knows Amaretto Sun, 75 to go. Half a length in front of Ronald J and Il Pirata and Amaretto Sun. The Trotters Green Mile winner. He's by Sundon, people. Amaretto Sun has beaten Ronald J and Il Pirata.
Well, yes, he's back. That's the real Amaretto Sun.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the race today was a great race for him, especially from the mobile. Obviously, he missed away at Dominion. So I thought if I come out the gate nice enough, I'm going to try lead. And yeah, he just kept going. I mean, I tried pulling him up at the finish. He didn't want to come back to me. So yeah, it was a great confidence booster for him too, I feel.
And you put the galloping hood on today just to sharpen him up. He'd been a little bit lethargic.
Yeah, just a wee bit. They thought he was a wee bit lethargic when Kieran drove him into Rari last week. So they thought they'd put the galloping hood on him, and yeah, it worked a treat.
All right, the big question will be, does he go north now? Back in winning form, that should give him the confidence, and even if he doesn't, it'll still help him, won't it?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what we're going to do yet, but I think it's in Grandad's mind to take him up there with Markula, probably as a travelling companion as well, more than anything. I would have liked to take him down south to do Omaka and that, but I mean, the way he went today, I think he definitely would be competitive going up there, and I think most of the races are mobiles, so yeah, I think he should go right if he does go up.
Completes what has been a remarkable 3 weeks or so for you and your family. Congratulations getting him back in winning form, and the Green Mile of 2018 is yours.
Thank you very much.
It is an incredible time for her and the family across the board, Michael. Often people say to us, gee, the show becomes an all-star affair. Well, the last month's been the Tomlinson-Ford affair, isn't it?
It has been, and it's great. It's great to see. We've said many times on the show, the trotters give you that point of difference from the pacers because, you know, the same stables don't tend to dominate. Well, they have for the last month. Here's the start of the race, and this is obviously what's happened is she's caught Gerard napping. Gerard O'Reilly driving Ronald J. We'll get back to the back end of the race because he probably thought he would mosey on to the lead and get there, and probably didn't think Cherie was going to blast out of the gate. In saying that, if Ronald J was good enough, he still had his chance. He sat on the back of the leader. He had 400 metres up the straight to catch him. Yes, he gave away tactical advantage. He admitted to you he stuffed it up. These things happen. But he wouldn't be the first bloke to be caught napping out of the gate. And to be completely honest, Ronald J's not the most bulletproof trotter in the world. But that, forget the rest of the race. The start of the race, won the race. Had Ronald J led, I'm sure he would have won. He goes to Addington this week in a race he probably will win, to be honest. And it's just a case of a horse, as you said, galloping hood on, whip up out of the gate, and Cherie put her eggs
confident
in one.
driver.
Well, she put her eggs in one basket, and
backed
it worked.
herself, and it was win number 11 for him, and he'll go north now. I'm absolutely certain of that.
You might as well. I mean, there's a lot of money up in the north over the next
and the mobile's
month.
The keys.
Yep, and he's at least as good as the rest of them. Behind Markula, he's probably as good as Le Monde or Temporale without being as consistent as them. So, as I said, it's easy to give Gerard... I backed Ronald J, by the way. So it's easy to give Gerard a hard time and say, oh, you missed the kick at the start, but he is still Ronald J.
And he's still... You're right.
It's not like it's Lyle Creek.
No.
Yeah, so it's a willing to forgive job. But I think if he knew Cherie was going to come out humming, as so often our young drivers do these days, our young drivers are often more aggressive at the start because it's part of how they've grown up. A lot of these people have been driving for 5 years. Then our older drivers who have been driving for 30 years, and for the first 20 of those, that aggression at the start wasn't part of our industry. It's changed. You know the one out of all the drivers who's changed the most? You have a think about this. Out of all the drivers in New Zealand, who's the person who's changed the most about the way they drive in the last 10 years?
The Mayor of Methven.
Absolutely certain.
Ricky May.
Ricky May was the most sit at the back of the field,
let him run home,
hope for the miracle driver for the first 20 years of his career. And if someone had said to me, Ricky will become a man for all races and be aggressive at some times and not other races, I would have thought, well, really? He's going to change his personality when he's 45 or 50? He has changed it enormously. He has been...
He'll tell you he's got to have the cattle, but you're absolutely right.
Of course he's got to have the cattle. And this isn't slagging anybody. It's just habit. But Ricky has changed to the point where he's often front ends in races, and then once in a while he'll produce an AG's White Sox special, which feels like a Ricky May from the old days. But it does tend to be that sometimes our drivers who have been driving for a lot longer, Greg, tend to be more conservative.
Yep, they do.
And that's learned behaviour. Hard to change your habits.
Given how busy it's been through the latter part of October and into Cup Week, didn't have an opportunity to catch up with a milestone. I did on Sunday, and Robbie Holmes joined a club that had 42 members, which surprised me, of having trained over 500 winners. So I sat down with Robbie and we had a yarn about that and some of his life in harness racing.
5 across the track here. Rips Nordic kicking. Dark Rage shot in the dark. Princess Fulham on the far side. Princess Fulham has nudged to the lead, and here's 500 for Robbie Holmes. Princess Fulham won it.
Robbie, first training success with Albion Park at Gore, 1998. I'm thinking that might feel like a wee while ago.
You're not wrong, Greg. Yeah, it does seem like a hell of a long time ago. We'd actually moved to Canterbury by that stage, and we were still, because Carla's parents were still down south, we used to trek on down there, and it was, when we bought the place, it was actually Freeman Holmes that lent us the trotter. He said, I've got one for you, you can try it on the beach. So we took that on board, and we took him down south, and he was our first one to get home.
Yeah, and since then, of course, an ensuing couple of decades, and you've made it to 500, 2 in the one day, Très Magnifique, and then the ultimate with Princess Fulham.
Was indeed, yeah. She got us over the line. It was taking a wee while, but it didn't really daunt on me, to be honest, that the 500 was coming up until someone mentioned something a wee while ago, prior rather. And it seemed to take longer and longer to get there, but that's how it is. So, but yeah. Pretty
cool milestone when you consider that there haven't been too many make it to 500.
Yeah, no, it is a big achievement. And obviously lots of people, staff and family and owners to thank along the way. And it's been good.
And of course, Carla's involvement in the stable, and even more so these days, she's had a big part to play.
She has indeed, yeah. Yep. What do they say? There's no good man without a good woman behind him. But no, she has been a rock to me. She does all the nominations and things like that, and jogs my memory on many occasions.
You've had one outstanding horse, the filly, of course, Kiwi Ingenuity. She won yourself an Oak, she won you a Jules, she won 4 Group 1 races, so she's a clear standout.
She is indeed, yeah. She was just in a sort of a zone of her own, really. I'll always remember probably her best workout. We took her into Rangiora prior to going to the Miracle Mile, and we were getting around, worked her over 2 mile, and she worked about 4:20. And she ran the last half and 54 and a piece out, and we were about 4 carts off the fence, and Andrew Stewart happened to be there at the time, and he was clocked us, which who else would expect Andrew to clock us? But he said, "Is your watch? What did you run home in?" And sure enough, yeah, and she went over there and raced accordingly. She ran 4th on that particular occasion.
I think one of your happiest memories of her, though, was beating the boys in the Pelorus. Is that fair to say?
Yep, definitely. I was a bit shocked actually how well she went, because we didn't have a great backing, a lead up to that. So I ended up, of all things, taking her down to Cromwell and racing her on the grass, where she won nice and comfortably, and just the trip away and everything just sort of woke her up a lot. And we went straight up to Blenheim after that, and home she rolled.
And of course, Hamish Scott and Dr. Kim Lawson, amongst many, many people, have been long-term owners for you, haven't they?
They have indeed, yeah. They've been a real major owner that we've had. Hamish and Kim, they've bred right throughout, and now it's really nice because they're starting to breed out of stock that we've raced in the past and had success with. And even to this day, we're just about to, not too far, step out the last filly out of Kiwi Express, a changeover filly, which I really do like. So she's the last of the maternal side of it, but there's all the daughters to come on with, so there's a lot to look forward to.
You talked about Free Homes before, giving you your first training success effectively. What's come with having the last name Holmes? Did it apply any pressure at any stage, or were you always going to be involved in the game?
Yeah, probably when I first started I wasn't that interested in the horses, but I'm going back when I was 7. Dad bought a tractor and that was more my drive. Then I was jogging horses on it and that got me involved, and probably by the time I was 10 I was having a fast work. And things, I've never been one to sort of put myself under pressure, so it's fair to say the Holmes name, it was nice to be among it when I was young, and unfortunately there's not too many left now. There's my father Colin and Kevin Holmes, they both lost their lives as younger people, but it's been a good ride. Yeah,
it has, and of course the late Uncle Kevin, one of World Drivers, Grandad Alan, he was a very good horseman as well, and great Uncle Morris, well, goes without saying, doesn't it?
Does indeed, yeah. Uncle Mo, I always remember they used to be at Auckland waiting for him to arrive so I could carry his driving bag around. And I think on his last night of driving, he drove a horse called Transmitter Sound. And he sat 3 wide and no one could work out what he was doing, but he ended up winning the race and it just couldn't get around the bends, but he got it round.
Yeah, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Hey, Robbie, great to catch up and acknowledge this milestone. I'm sure there's plenty more wins to come, and well done on the 500.
Thanks very much, Greg.
Sire Stakes Silver Time it was on Friday night at Addington Raceway, and this is for the horses that finished in behind what was the brilliant winner of the Sires and Ultimate Sniper. Cast No Shadow got the inside run from drawing barrier 1, didn't wait for the passing lane, John Morrison, and well, Paul Court's team's racing really well, and he's just getting better with racing, this horse.
He is, and I think some of these horses might have been a bit tired from their exertions in the Sire Stakes final, but no excuses, he was good. The horse down the outside, Stickman, was also good. Outstanding.
Oh, that was outstanding, yeah.
But the horse outside it was
Yes,
Stickman,
it was Stickman, who races this week.
Outstanding is good because I think he still brushes a knee, so he's sort of racing against himself sometimes, but he might grow out of that.
That horse was disappointing because he's been racing really well starts
he might have
tonight.
been tired too.
Yeah.
Like some of these
horses.
He's
had a big last 5 or 6 weeks.
The leader was disappointing compared to his Sires Stakes final 4th. Because, again, he might have just been a little bit tired.
I'm prepared to give him a pass mark because I did speak to Murray Brown about him, and he'd put him in the paddock, and this was I wouldn't say an afterthought, but it was like, again, oh, well, we're actually eligible for that.
But again, you do that because they're tired. They need to freshen up. So you do chuck them on the grass for 3 or 4 days. And
there's been plenty of people knocking on the door for that horse too, but
what about the fillies?
Not for sale sign.
As good as those boys were, I'm not sure too many of those are Group 1 factors for the derbies. What about the fillies? This one is. I know you're in love with her, so here is Wainui Creek, which had to overcome A, you tipping it, and B, the curse of the centre's hat, and it still absolutely smashed them.
Always ducking in badly and has squeezed up the Dalgety pair, Ruby Rose, but this is one very, very nice filly, this one. Wainui Creek, too good for Mama Knows Best. Third over Ruby Rose, All About Dreams, has run 4.
Race by Peter and Ben Smith. Again, this one's not for sale either. She's a beauty. Ricky May has decided to stick with her. He'd been driving Bazinga, and that's why, Michael, because she has a really good motor. Yes, she got some nice sectionals, but have a look at the scope of her. She is only going to get better the further they go.
Yeah, buy betters out of a Christian coloured mare, clearly an Oaks filly. The problem for her is what is unwrapped at Alexandra Park on Friday night, because this is a very good filly. But Princess Tiffany is back, and she might be a champion. She was a champion juvenile. Who knows how she'll come back at 3, but she's awfully good.
Yeah.
And if you owned this horse, you're hoping like hell that you have some luck and Princess Tiffany has some bad luck. Because while she was good, Princess Tiffany would have been just as good probably. And that's the problem for these horses. And that's why we lose so many overseas. And I hope they keep this horse and breed from her here, because it's so hard to be a good Group 1 horse in New Zealand. Whereas you can go to Australia and be in a different state, WA, New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland. You can pick your targets, and they've all got Oakses and they've all got those types of races you can win. Whereas here, if you stay home, and I'm glad she's staying home, you do have, at this stage...
Pretty a stereotype formula, don't you?
Well, it's just really hard to beat those horses. So I'm hoping nothing bad happens to Princess Tiffany, because I love her. I think she's a wonderful filly, but I wouldn't mind seeing Wainui Creek sneak a big race, Greg. It'd be a nice point.
He's a good trainer, Richard Aubrey. He's always had a fair horse around him.
He must have a good strike rate.
Very much so.
And his horses always look good.
They do.
You know, they don't get hairy and yakkish. They look good. He must look after them well. So
You talked about Alexandra Park. We need to go back there from last Friday night, and Le Monde, off the back of his placing in the Dominion, sat parked, which was a surprise to many, and with David Butcher in the bike, did this.
Le Monde's got him though at the 120. Then Massive Metro, Le Monde and the Chief David Butcher forges away now. Le Monde, and he'll get the Amalgamated Pipefitters Limited Trot in great fashion. Photo's second. Maybe the Almighty Johnson just holds out.
Good effort, wasn't it, Michael? Showing a little bit more tenacity sitting park than what he might have done perhaps earlier in his career.
The strange thing was he was so poor in the New Zealand free-for-all when he almost galloped and then sat in the trail and couldn't run past a horse. Was really good in the Dominion, and when you see this version of this horse you go, gee, he's a good horse, but I still just don't trust him. I like him but I don't trust him. That was the 19th time he's met Temporale. They've had 5 Quinellas during that time. That wasn't one of them obviously, but the score is now 10-9. That's how close they are, and it tends to be, when he races Temporale, Greg, the one who gets in front of the other ones. And that was a prime example. Tony Hurler, he went back at the start because he knew there was speed inside him. Le Monde sat outside the leader who he thought he had covered, and Temporale cut the fence. Reverse those barrier draws, you probably reverse the result.
I thought Temporale was pretty good there. He actually made up some good ground.
He's just like a bigger version of Le Monde. They swap. I can't remember the last time we had 2 horses race 19 times for a 9-10. They are so even with each other. Usually one horse becomes dominant over the other. Sometimes it's even psychological. One horse just beats the other horse up enough.
Chris and me and Terra to Love, I remember them having a similar type
that would be close.
Yeah.
But these 2 horses, it just comes down to where they draw. With Le Monde, gee, it must have been tempting to go to the Interdominions. I know left-handed might not be his go, but
given
when you see the horses there, he would have been the 3rd best horse in the series. Let's go to the National Trot, which is where he is going to head on Christmas Eve. Mark Aller's dominant favourite. We know he's coming north for the Lyle Creek into that speeding spur. Will he come back? He might.
You would have to think yes.
He might, but I don't want to back him to find out. Ingheim, what's the update
I
there?
talked to Greg Hope about that on Sunday. Could not be happier with him. Now, I'm not locking in that he'll be there for the National Trot, but it's more likely than what I thought it was, having spoken to him on Sunday.
Driver John Dunn has told me Harriet of Mott's not coming north, so ignore those $9.
She goes round this week at Abington.
Exactly right. Le Monde versus Temporale, you've heard the score, it's 9-10. It could be 11-10 by the time they run a couple more of these. The Woodstone is coming north and is in play, and so's Luby Lou, who's quite a forgotten horse, but was exceptional last year. And Ronald J races at Addington on Friday in a race he probably should win, and he's going to want to win it to come north for this. Yeah. So even without having a superstar in this crop like Monte, with Mark Kohler and that really strong support cast, I think the trotting races at the Carnival will be at least as good as the Auckland.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to them, as was the build-up towards the Dominion this year. Speaking of trotting of a different type now, we went to Alexandra Park on Friday night for this, Michael, the first ever Monte. And what's not surprising is the winning rider has just about done everything in the game, Michelle Northcott.
It's a great story, isn't it? I mean, Michelle Northcott obviously has been an amateur rider, an amateur driver, heavily involved in thoroughbreds, but then came across to harness racing in a historic moment here. Jay Abernathy trained Granado, and he was instrumental in getting Montes off the ground in this country. Michelle is one of the galloping / harness racing people who will come across. There are other galloping jockeys, and there's Taylor Wen down on the inside, who is obviously a galloping jockey, who are already talking about applying for their licences. And that can only be good for a bit of cross-fertilisation. A lot of people watched this race, they were interested in it. And it's not going to solve harness racing's woes. It's not going to be, oh wow, we've got Monte's, life's going to change now. But I do think it's a point of difference. And for example, this week at Alexandra Park, we have Friday and Saturday. And to a degree, you might be watching halfway through Saturday and you go, oh, you know, is there anything interesting to see here? Whereas the Montes are different. And you chuck them on the grass somewhere in front of those big picnic crowds.
That's the race they'll remember.
Exactly. That's the race where the kids will go, oh, Mum and Dad, what's going on here? So after the race, Craig, the big man, the whale, caught up with Michelle.
Congratulations, Michelle. Outstanding performance. How does it feel to be the first ever winner of a tote race in a Monte Trot? Oh, it's pretty awesome. No, it's a big buzz. I'm especially happy for Jay and for Lisa. They've put a lot into it.
When you've had 16 wins as an amateur driver and you've had about 8 to 10 as a rider, you've also had a win in Italy as an amateur reinsman over there. Granado, he gave you a really good feel tonight?
He did. The further we went, the better he felt. Yeah.
In the Monte trot ranks, do you think that now we've got this underway, the concept will be taken on more and hopefully we get more races off the ground?
Hopefully we'll get a bit of a summer series going or something like that. That'd be pretty awesome. Hopefully everybody will support it.
It was a wonderful thrill tonight, a big crowd on course, and I know a lot of them turned up here to watch the Monte Trot tonight. Congratulations to you again, and let's hope we can see you at least ride one or two more winners in the upcoming future.
I'll be definitely trying.
Yeah, you could clearly see she was delighted there. It doesn't look natural to me, like it doesn't look natural riders on the trotters, but at the end of the day, what does that matter? As you said, it's a spectacle, it's something different. It's in the North Island at the moment. I don't know if it'll get to the south in the very near future, but it might one day.
I would have thought the South Island would be a natural fit for it, to be honest. There's more people, there's more trotters for a start. And there's more people there who jog their horses around the road or ride them around the farm.
Well, we heard Cherie last week saying that, she's done it.
As I said, it's not going to solve the woes of the industry, but it's a point of difference in the same way that sometimes if I'm watching a boring Te Rapa meeting in May and there's a jumping race in the first on the card, I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch this. It's a jumping race, it's something different. Whereas at a rating 65, I might not watch it.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's going to help with the internationalisation of the product. No, it's not going to be some gigantic deal. Is it going to help maybe a few more galloping eyeballs appear on a harness racing meeting? If a Sam Spratt or somebody turns up,
which is a distinct possibility.
Exactly. Yep. Then it will. So I think they're a perfect fit for the Reeftons and the Motukararas and those sort of places. The big grass track picnic crowds and the Wanganuis and those places. People can go, you know what, this is a bit of fun. People don't take their betting all that seriously on the grass anyway. Most of the big players don't play. That's the key factor, and this is crucial. They can't make them pick 6 legs.
No, definitely not.
It's same as amateur drivers. They made a mistake a while ago where they were putting amateur drivers' races in
just
pick 6.
Just put you off. Yep.
It's unprofessional, and we can't let that happen until they're more established.
I just don't want to get too carried away with the turnover from the other night, because I did notice, having been at Addington working on course, that race was about 3, if not 4 minutes over start time. Well, that will inflate your turnover. Not sure whether that was by design or what.
Two things. The turnover was all right, and it doesn't really matter how high or low it was because, as I said, it's a point of difference. It's something different for an industry where I think we've got 7 or 8 meetings this week, including a lot of backup
well, I was just
meetings.
going to say, one thing that's not different at this time of year, Michael, we have an enormous amount of harness racing. For the good reason that we want a whole lot of Christmas parties to go there. Starting with Addington Raceway Thursday night, $25,000 pick 6 there, $5.54, 8 races, given that they race again on Saturday night. The reason for that, Alexandra Park have a 9-race card, $6.15 on Friday night, and some very good races there, including the Caduceus Club Northern Breeders' Stakes and a Summer Cup there to boot. Forbury Park, $25,000. It'll be a turbo with Alexandra Park and an 8-race program there. Invercargill race on Saturday, 12:02, 10 races from there. Up the road, Addington have 8 races starting just after 6 o'clock on Saturday night, and Alexandra Park race again with 7 races starting at 6:22. And then we go to Akaroa for their Cup Day, Fast Track Insurance Akaroa Cup, and a $5,000 bonus early quaddie. That starts at 12 o'clock. And Manawatu race on Tuesday, and they have a $20,000 terminating pick 6. You got all that, Michael? You write them down?
I'll tell you what is unusual, and you might have missed in that huge amount of racing. This will be a first that I can remember, and I've been doing this a little while in Auckland. Ellerslie race on Saturday and Alexandra Park race Saturday night, and they actually cross over. There's a race at Ellerslie at 7:10 on Saturday night, and there's a race at Alexandra Park, which is, if you've never been to the two of them, about 1,200 metres away, 9 minutes later.
Right.
So
I don't remember it happening before.
I think it might have happened with cancelled meetings in the past, and they've definitely raced on the same day. There's no doubts about that, because Alexandra Park used to race on Saturday nights. But there wouldn't have been many times I've crossed over, because Ellerslie haven't had twilights for that long, and Alexandra Park haven't had day race meetings for a long time apart from New Year's Eve. So there's going to be a segment there where Alexandra Park and Ellerslie are both racing a kilometre-ish apart.
Yeah.
Now that wouldn't happen in many places in the world, because there's not many places in the world outside Brisbane where you have 2 racetracks a kilometre apart.
We saw the Woodland selections there, and another masterpiece returns, which is again
so the,
a big bonus. That's in race number 1.
2-year-old of the season last year returns against Jesse Duke, and I think ultimately Machete's got tactical advantage for the season on him, but these things can change.
Ultimate Sniper, yep. Last week, Bets White. Yeah, it's easy to get confused. They are brothers after all. Yes, 7 out of the 9, including Aaron White. Yes, he's found us a winner last week, and it was 888, and I think it paid about 280, 290 around there. So he's working his way back up the list. Is a White. Mr. Yips was a short price winner, and Michael Sonny's Little Jestic looked a winner, and it was.
The 2-year-olds from last season were quite good, and one of them's coming back this week too. Cheerful's back in the first at Addington. I think it's the Saturday meeting.
Yep.
One of them. There's 2 meetings. The 2-year-olds who have come back from last season as 3-year-old trotters are winning. So it's a really nice bunch to follow. Doff Your Cap didn't win when it came back fresh up.
But it's in this week.
Exactly, it will. The 2-year-old trotting crop last year was quite good, and I think we're going to see 3-year-old trotters who before Christmas don't tend to beat their older rivals come back in the maidens and go bang, 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 bang. There's one this week at Alexandra Park called The Player, I think, Greg, and that's, we've seen quite a few do it already, and I think we're going to see quite a few more do it because the breed, particularly the Majestic Sons, are getting so much cleaner in their gait that it's just a little handy punting tip heading forward.
Okay, speaking of punting tips, here's a heap of them again this week. I reckon Stickman, the horse you pointed out before, can win. Matt Cross, he's on a bit of leave at the moment, but he's following me in every week. Wainui Creek, now into Stickman. Ronald J for you, Michael, you think that'll be winning. Mark Mack thinks Rip Snorter, and not a Bene Denario. Craig Thompson and Cameron Shaw seem to be going the same way. Do you think they're in cahoots over this? Cahoots is the word, yeah.
They're near the top of the leaderboard, and Stacey's gone for Ready to Bloom after labelling a winner at Methven last week, and Egg Roll's gone for Mick Lovin at Addington on Thursday. So, gee, there's a lot of racing this week, Greg. It's one of those times of the year you don't want to get carried away having a bet every race.
Yeah.
Unless you're not betting much, because pick your targets. There's a lot
and if you do and you're not sure where to go, the Whale Watch is well worth tuning in for. You can pick that up, of course, on your Trackside channel. Right.
But by the way, since we started this show, because it's recorded, because we're not actually live at the moment, I'm doing something else right now. And you probably are too. The fields are out for the Interdominions now, so that wasn't available to us at the start of the show. Tiger Tara and Cruise Bromac have drawn well. Spankham and Patsalot have drawn the second line. Tornado Valley and Speeding Spur have drawn well. Greg, what I take from that is Saturday at Cranbourne, Speeding Spur, Tornado Valley, Tiger Tara and Cruise Bromac should all be winning, which means the favourites for the Interdominions will truck on. All of that will go into the funnel of the barrier draw on Monday morning. That's when we'll know who's going to start favourite for the Interdominion finals on Saturday week.
Well, that's been your box seat for the week. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back in 7 days' time. Good luck with your punting. There's a heck of a lot over the next few days.